This ain't just a Toy Story or a foreign unboxing. These are the stories of action, toy glory, and we're clocking. SH Figuarts, Black Series are hot toys. And figures with transformation sequences that make noise. Check out the joints and the many points of articulation. We're celebrating the global collector nation. Sit back, relax, and get ready to rock this. Here's the
Welcome to the latest episode of Shelf Conscious. I'm your host, Keith Chow. Joining me on the podcast and video series this week is a fellow toy collector we actually met through a mutual friend. You may have heard of him, Jason Sperber. He was one of the founding fathers, literally, of the Nerds of Color. And he introduced me to this great guy. I've been following his IG now, and he's got a lot of cool toy photographs. Deeez action figures on Instagram. Please welcome to Shelf Conscious, Greg Carter.
Hey there. How's it going? I'm so glad we're getting to talk.
Of course. No, I was just saying, the people I relate to the most are the ones who have shelves and shelves of 6 3 3/4 inch action figures. And I can see behind you, you are definitely my people. So, and clearly Star Wars is your first love. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, Star Wars is the starting point. You know, I wasn't even thinking about it, but back in 2005 when Revenge of the Sith came out, I started to buy action figures. And at first it was just like, oh, let me buy a couple Jedi and a couple troopers. Now you can see my bookcases. There are no books. I do have some books, but they're nowhere to be found because that just kept growing and growing, and it just clicked. I think it was just this kind of junction of being the right age, having some expendable money, not needing to be cool anymore. The last Star Wars movie, which at that time felt like it was just going to be the very last Star Wars movie ever. I just started buying action figures. I tried to narrow it down with just Darth Vader. So Darth Vader is my main man. If there was a new line that Hasbro was putting out or some other company was putting out, I'd tell myself, just get Darth Vader.
But it quickly spiraled out of control.
Right. It's still Darth Vader. And Darth Vader kind of helps me. And now it's kind of space. And so this room is about 10 by 10. And most of the collection is here. Okay, there are a couple shelves in another room and a couple shelves in another room and some crates in the basement. Right. But this is the, how do they call it in museums? This is the permanent collection. This is the curated.
the main exhibition room.
Right.
So you said 2005 is when you started. So did you not collect toys or buy toys when you were younger or anything?
Right. I was 7 when Star Wars came out, so I was just that target age. And I remember turning 13 and Return of the Jedi came out. Puberty had already hit. And I wasn't playing with my toys as much. And my mom said to me, do you mind if we donate your toys? And I was strongly on the adolescence kick. I was like, yeah, whatever. Give away my toys, whatever. So I did not have toys through adolescence.
So like the whole 80s phenomenon totally bypassed. You were too old by like the time G.I. Joe and Masters of the Universe.
I had a couple G.I. Joes, but they didn't really vibe. You know what? Actually, I had Legos and the original Space series, which was great. And I had the little Lego people were kind of subjected to the Star Wars people. They were kind of...
It's funny. Like, I was thinking about, first of all, I think you're right. When you're a kid, you can't call yourself a collector when you're a kid, right? You're buying toys to play with them. You're not really putting them up on shelves to display. And I actually remembered, I've been talking a lot about G.I. Joe recently on this podcast. The guy I had on last week, Cincy Nerd, he's a huge G.I. Joe fan. And I had Larry Hama, who was the creator of G.I. Joe on. So and then Snake Eyes is coming on. G.I. Joe is like the one thing that's my kind of constant, I think, throughout my life. But anyway, I was thinking back to like how I used to play with them when I was a kid. And I think I did something similar in that, I didn't necessarily, of course I did the occasional like G.I. Joe versus Cobra. And then sometimes they were just like wrestlers in a wrestling match. Like I would have them like body slam each other. And then you're right. G.I. Joe and Star Wars were the same scale. And sometimes, lines would mix, and I would have Darth Vader getting choke slammed by Snake Eyes or something.
Right. Being a Star Wars kid, I always had to you were dealing with the 5 points of articulation, And when G.I. Joe came out, it was just like, oh, this is better, but it's not Star Wars, so it's not better.
Right. So, you went through the whole, like, you got basically bypassed by the 80s and 90s kind of like action figure boom. And then, but you were reintroduced into 2000s as an adult.
Right.
And, the thing about the resurgence of Star Wars, and it wasn't only the prequels, the figures came back about 10 years earlier, 95, The Power of the Force, kind of reintroduced a whole new generation to Star Wars toys. Right. And I remember, like, that's kind of what brought me back. Because I went through the same thing. I've now 3 episodes in a row, I talked about my mom getting rid of all of my Masters of the Universe. So I'm not going to tell that story again. But it was the same thing. Like, she asks for your consent. And then when you're a dumb teenager, you're like, yeah, whatever. And then you spend the rest of your adulthood chasing all those toys back.
Right.
But, I know that, like, I was a high school, so I'm a little bit younger than you. I was a high school senior in 95. And that's when Power of the Force came out. That's also when Batman Forever was in theaters. And I think that's when I let my nerd flag fly. And I was like, fuck it. I'm not going to pretend I don't like toys anymore. Instead of using my brother as like a shield to go to the toy aisles, I was like happily going to the toy aisles and comic stores with him and fully owning my nerdiness. Right. But anyway, I wanted to ask you, like, since it took you a few more years to get into did you go back and try to like buy back any of the vintage figures, any of the like the Power of the Force figures? Like
2005, rebelscum.com was the place, right? I mean, it hasn't been that long, but things have totally changed. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, so on and so forth to get information. So I think Rebel Scum was like my homepage, and I would just pour over there catalogs of all the product lines. Like I said, Darth Vader was my thing, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get every Darth Vader. I'm not gonna get everyone else.
Did the prequels complicate that a little bit? Because you're like, well, I guess I got to get Anakin now too, so that's technically and that's what expanded.
If I had to go into the old lines, if I had to go into Power of the Force and Power of the Jedi, so on, it would be Darth Vader. And I don't know how much those things run on eBay now, but was mostly eBay. Like I was like, oh, I need this Darth Vader or that Darth Vader, or this is the best Luke going. Right, this is the best Luke in his Hoth gear going. I think there was a lot of like, what is the best version of the character and outfit? And I think I would go for that. And eBay, right? eBay, things were too expensive on eBay. And so I would go for shop on eBay. So there was constantly brown packages. And there was constantly books being moved off of the bookcase.
I mean, when you think of the evolution, too, of those figures, even from when you were a kid, like you said, the 3 3/4 ones back in the 70s and 80s, 5-point stars. It's funny that, like, a lot of retro style companies are kind of like bringing that back, like Super 7 and Funko did like the reaction figures, and that's kind of like capturing the aesthetic of those old Star Wars toys. But when you compare like those old vintage ones to even the 3 3/4 ones that come out now that are like super articulated but don't lose the sculpt, like it's such a wild evolution in the last 4 years.
Yeah. I think when I got into it in the mid 2000s, that's when Hasbro was really like putting more and more points of articulation in there. I don't really collect 3 3/4 as much anymore, but they're just as good as 6-inch. I mean, beyond the physical limitation, just
right. Well, the vintage collection, right? Like the vintage collection are essentially shrunken down Black Series.
Yeah, they're just as good.
And then they, but they also in recent years kind of Hasbro brought back the aesthetic of like the 5 points figures.
Yeah, I don't have space for that.
Well, you got to get the Vaders at least, right?
No, because I have them in.
Well,
and it's painful. I had to put the 3 3/4 in the basement because what else has happened in the past 10 years? Marvel, the DC. Changing hands a number of times. So I've got Star Wars shelves, but I also have Marvel shelves.
I mean, Hasbro is still like the owner of your wallet. Like And I feel like, I've said this on a previous episode. Hasbro has kind of become like the Disney of the toy industry in that,
right.
Disney owns like literally every nerd property that you could ever want. Hasbro is pretty much that too. So
then again, then they're the expensive imports. So I do have some Hot Toys. You think a Hot Toy is $200 or more. That's like
can't see it. I have the deluxe Mando right there. That's the first one I bought. I bought it for this guy.
Right.
And I always told myself I would never get into Hot Toys just because, like, to your point, $200 for an action figure. I always had the Michael Keaton Batman, but that was a gift from my uncle, like when we visited Hong Kong 70 years ago. Right. But it never was like, I was like, I'm never going to buy one. I just can't go down that rabbit hole. I ended up buying Deluxe Mando and Harley Quinn from Birds of Prey. Right. I just went and casually dropped $500
I have a pretty solid number of the Hot Toys, but it was so expensive, and then it was just like, oh my God, and they were getting more expensive. So I was like, am I really going to get another Anakin, or am I just going to display my old Hasbro one with pride? Or my old Sideshow one with pride. I decided it's okay to mix brands. It doesn't always have to be the best.
For sure.
But one Hot Toys is like 10, 11, 12 Hasbros. So
I was just going to say too, like one thing you could do with your 3 3/4 Vaders, if you go and buy the old school Darth Vader case and just fill them up with the 3 3/4 Vaders, and there you go. You just have that as your display.
Right. I did end up getting, because in 2005 they re-released the old carry case, and then I went on brianstoys.com and got vintage from the 80s ones, and that's my collection.
Would you say like 6-inch though is your like go-to scale?
6 inches,
because like looking at your Instagram, I feel like the majority of the figures you're posting is pretty much like Black Series, Marvel Legends, so on and so forth. What do you think that's the sweet spot? What is it? Because I feel the same way. Like if you can see all my shelves, like it's all the Black Series classified. What do you think it is about that particular scale that's the sweet spot for so many collectors? Because everything that I
it's a great balance. There's more detail than the 3 3/4. There's equally articulation, more detail. It's photogenic, not too expensive. Enough different lines are in 6-inch. I love to mash up. I love to cross universes. So anything that's in scale with each other. So I bought Muppets a couple weeks ago. I was surprised with myself. I was like, ooh, what's their name? The two old guys, Waldorf and Stanton. That set's back in stock. So
I wanted to get into the notion of like, collecting as a collector of color a little bit, right? Because I think one of the, and I've joked that, we're not going to talk about representation because I just want to talk about toys. But at the same time, I think a point that you've made in the past is, when you are a collector of toys and all the properties that we kind of love aren't that diverse. However, in recent years, you're starting to see more characters of color. And for what it's worth, like, He-Man, G.I. Joe, even Star Wars had the occasional black figure or Asian ninja figure, right? But like, do you feel like as a collector of color that it's important to have like black action figures on the shelves as well? And do you think that like the collecting community is as cognizant of those disparities as like other parts of like nerddom? Because I know that you've said too that collecting feels more insular than say like cosplaying or going to conventions.
Well, here's a funny story. When I was probably 12 or so, I was playing with my best friend who was black. We were in the backyard, and I asked, those pipes that stick out of the yard, that it's like the water pipe, whatever. I dropped my Lando Calrissian down that pipe, and both of us, I just remember both of us just sitting there heartbroken. Because, there are many other flashier and more seminal characters in Star Wars, but to drop the Lando down there is just heartbreaking. So it kind of, some of the same feelings are there. Action figures are little fetishes and tokens and little representations of characteristics and things that we look up to, or even things that we feel are we are in a struggle with. So to have characters who represent yourself or represent part of your life is definitely important. There's been an incredible increase, and I think which goes hand in hand with the casting and then the shows and the storylines, whether it be Marvel or Star Wars, Mandalorian, whatever. There are definitely more minority action figures, and that's great. I love it. I have a couple Instagram photos where every time the Black series brings in another Black character, I post a picture where all the previous ones welcome him to the Black series. So, and that actually turned out to be one of my most popular posts. Yeah. I have no idea that a picture of Grief Karga, old Carl Weathers, with other African-American characters greeting him would be really popular, but that took off.
Yeah.
I think there are a number of guys who are African-American who follow me who appreciated it. Then I think there must be people out there just following tags,
right?
Black Lives Matter, Black Heroes Matter, and that appealed to them. And there's kind of it's not very formal, but in my head I can name a bunch of people who are into those representations, and there's a lot of support for each other. We know that we love these characters, and we love posts with them.
And but at the same time, I was thinking too. Again, since we're talking about Star Wars, is that when the sequels came out, and it was huge that John Boyega was all over the trailers for Force Awakens. Right. And then, but the uproar, I don't know if you remember 5 years ago, the uproar was like, where's Rey? How come there are no Rey figures?
Mm-hmm. Where's Finn?
There's barely any Finn merchandise. And if you look at the totality of the sequels,
there's still not much Rey merchandise, really. I still have, so in my shelves, I have these little cut up pieces, cue cards that have the names of the figures that I'm still waiting for them to create. They barely made any characters from Rise of Skywalker.
Well, it took them. Well, I think they're trying to forget Rise of Skywalker as quickly as possible.
Right, right.
But it also took them 5 years to make a little 6-inch Riz Ahmed too. But we finally got the Rogue One updates.
Right.
That was breaking news a couple days ago. But but again, thinking of like Rose Tico, like when. I mean, of course, she's controversial in that she's an Asian woman existing in Star Wars. That's what makes her so controversial. But there was nary a Rose. Like, there hasn't been any since that initial one that came out when Last Jedi came out. And I recall much of the uproar around her character. There was these racists on YouTube that I won't name that like their whole shtick was like buying up all the Rose figures and like burning them or cutting them up and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so like on the one hand, it's like, well, at least you're upping the numbers.
It's a really dumb way to protest.
Like Hasbro's like, oh wow, she's selling really well. But at the same time, it's like there's I wonder what what you mentioned Rise of Skywalker. I was at a Disney presentation before the film came out of like their merchandise, and like we were all going, how come there's no Rose merchandise? Is she not in the movie? And then we learned, she's not in the movie. But the same thing, like there still hasn't been any Finn figures since his Imperial disguise in Last Jedi. Like, was there a Finn figure for Rise of Skywalker?
No, there's not a cute twist and nice jacket Finn. There's not a Poe with his sleeves rolled up Poe.
Yeah, he's another character of color that hasn't gotten much representation. So
I will give them my money. They will take them.
But again, I think they're just trying to forget Rise of Skywalker as quickly as possible. That could be what it is.
I'm so mad at J.J. Abrams. I mean, we knew it, but when he came out recently and said, "Oh, we didn't really have a plan for those movies," it's like, really?
But the thing is, like, the thing is, if you look, did you ever read the Duel of the Fates script?
I have it on my hard drive, but I haven't read it.
I read it. It's fucking great. Like, it's almost like, it totally flows out of Last Jedi. And it's almost like they had a plan. And then that plan just got blown up in the middle. And they didn't have a plan for when they blew up the original plan. I think that's the issue. Right. But yeah, Duel of the Fates, as a script at least, reads really great. And I think the biggest monkey wrench, and we're getting off the subject of toys, I think the biggest monkey wrench was Carrie Fisher's passing, because the pattern was the first movie's Han's, the second movie's Luke's, and the third one's going to be Leia's. And then she wasn't around, so they had
but
to
they still could have.
Yeah, it was still a hot mess. So you've made a bit of a name for yourself on Instagram, taking photographs of your figures. Like, when did you decide, like, I want to get into toy photography? And what kind of what is your process for? Because you have some really cool, funny, shots on your Instagram.
Around 3 years ago, God, what was going on? Maybe my second child had just been born or was about to be born, so I was more homebound. And I don't have all of my earliest posts there, but my earliest posts, and the earliest I can remember was I put Finn and Ray in the Batmobile and had them stealing the Batmobile from 1966 Batman and Robin. I don't know, it's just fun to visualize the stuff in my head and then pose it out, light it, get the good shot. And then it still took a while to start posting them on Instagram, but I just started posting them on Instagram. And so it's great because of social networks, I think Instagram has the most engagement. You have the most people saying they like it and commenting and so on and supporting and following each other. Mm. Then, the pandemic really geared it up or amped it up for a lot of photographers, isolating at home with your action figures and your phone, and sometimes taking a walk and having what they call your pocket figure. And so I made a point of that, whatever that was, last spring. Got my pocket figure, taking the kids on a walk. Hey kids, stop. Stop walking.
This is a great
Don't
shot
go
to
in the
compose
street.
right here.
I'm about to take some pictures in front of this nice mossy wall. And I think that support really in that community really grew. Another thing I really like about it, there's different levels. And there's the superstars who are also some of the big name reviewers on YouTube. There's some photographers who are not that famous. There's some who are not even that famous, but there's a lot of openness and support for each other. I have a decent number of followers, and I know some other guys and photographers who also have a lot of followers, or they're around the same number of followers, and everyone's just supportive of each other.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing I have found about the toy collecting community is that even, it is the one thing that in a way, there is a sense of, because we share this passion of this hobby, there is a sense of walls being taken down between people. Like when you see someone, even in the toy, unless they're a scalper, that's the one, I think, that's the one part of the community that nobody likes and no one admits to being, but you can tell who they are because they're the ones that are camping out at 8:00 right when Target opens.
Do scalpers also have fun with it?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't get the appeal. Of course the appeal is making money, but how is that fun to just swoop in and grab all of the Cobra Island figures just because
right I never saw any of them.
Just because you can mark up the price by 3 times or whatnot. What about the toy hunt? I know that you don't, you're not, it's funny, there's different factions or there's different types of toy kind of personalities on the internet, right? There's photographers like yourself.
I don't really do the hunt because I don't have enough time.
So how do you do you just order online?
Ordering mainly Big Bad Toy Store, Amazon, sometimes Target.
That's the thing that's also kind of changed because because I've been collecting since 95, really robustly collecting, not just casually buying a figure here and there. That the notion that you can just click a button And I think that's what's also frustrating about like G.I. Joe. And it's 4 episodes in a row and I keep bitching about G.I. Joe. But it's like, you can't even order them is what's crazy.
No. Can't even. Because I wanted the Baroness and Bike.
No.
I set my whatever notifications on the Target app.
Yeah, that trips me out. Like, but we don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, that thing really, I had this dream that there was an action figure at Target. And in my dream, I looked on the internet and it was there on the internet. And other people had it.
Like, how did they get it? That's what I never understood.
Right. But in my dream, I could never have it.
The emergence of like Amazon and Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, Dorkside, like all of these like online toy shops has been a godsend mostly for folks like us who are too busy to like I said, camp out at like 8:00 right when Target opens. Mm-hmm. I mean, I still do it. It's still, there's something thrilling about seeing it in the wild, you know, even if I don't pick it up, I'm like, oh wow, there's the, Bo-Katan. She's already on shelves, you know?
Right.
But the ease of just pushing a button and 3 weeks later, like there's a box at your door. Nothing beats that.
3 weeks, 4 days, 6 hours, and 18 minutes.
Not that you're counting. We usually like ask folks on the show, what is their white whale? What is the holy grail figure or piece or vehicle maybe? The one thing that got away. Now, I know that you said you kind of stopped collecting throughout most of your young adulthood and then started back up, post Sith. But I'm sure even since then, even though you drop a couple $100 on Hot Toys, there's like that one thing that you haven't been able to acquire. What is it for you?
Probably some of those Mezcos. Because the Mezco 112s are beautiful. They come out and then you like think about it. Or if you're even this lucky, maybe like a couple of years ago was this way. You know what's painful is when because Mezco has done different characters a number of times. I do not own any Punishers. Any of those great Punishers, I don't own. I own one of their Batmans. I own 2 of Mezco Batmans. And I wish I had like a whole...
I mean, there's like 12 of them.
Yeah. With so the various variations and so on. Yeah.
And that's not counting the licensed ones, right? Like the movie ones. Like just like they have the whole series of like Sovereign Knight and all that stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. I got the Sovereign and I got the regular version, which I think might still be in stock here or there. But there was a period when I was like, oh, look at the blue one, look at the black one, and so on. But, you got to have... See, I do... Star Wars is my main thing, and then probably Marvel. But I've got a bit of this and that all over the place. So
But your main go-to is Star Wars. And so what if Mezco got the Star Wars license? Then what would you do then?
Oh, God. I don't know.
Exactly, right? I have a up and down relationship with Mezco. I bought the Batman and Superman from Batman versus Superman when it first came out, and I still have them in the box. And because like they looked really good in pictures, but then when I got them, I don't know, something about the Henry Cavill costume just didn't translate well in like 6-inch scale. I guess.
For Mezco, I do wait for reviews to come out. Yeah. I do have, here's a question that you should ask. What is the expensive action figure you wish you didn't get?
Yeah, there's a good one. What is that one for you? Because I have a couple of them.
I don't have anything personal against it, but they're Mezco's Gladiator Thor. It's beautiful, but it's too small. He's got to be bigger. So small.
Yeah.
And he's got this nice, clear porcelain face. He looks like what's his name? Fitzsimmons from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Not quite Chris Hemsworth. But so the first Mezco figure I did open, though, I don't know if you can see it on my shelf, is the Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, that's great.
With the base.
Beautiful, great action figure.
And then once I opened that one, I went on a bit of a Mezco rabbit hole, and I ordered the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa Aquaman. And then I pre-ordered... I'm so stupid. This is my regret. maybe I can still cancel it, but I pre-ordered the 3-pack of Batman, Flash, and Black Suit Superman from the Snyder Cut. Because I was like, well, if I'm going to get them, I should just get the whole that's team, right? Yeah. And I still have the original BVS Superman and Batman, which I still don't like them because the outfit looks like pajamas. They don't look as tailored as the Christopher Reeve Superman outfit. And I think that's my problem with it. So I'm probably end up going to either cancel the pre-order or sell it when I get it. Or I don't know, maybe I'll open them. But yeah, that's the other problem I have.
Upgrades happen.
Yeah. Well, we just talked about Rogue One, right? Like they finally fixed all those goddamn Rogue One figures that I've had for 5 years. They're all sitting in bins now, so I guess I gotta break those out again.
Bins. Send them to the bins.
Yeah.
I sent Gladiator Thor to the bins. Not to the bins, but back to his box. Because he's just too small.
Do you have anything that you just buy and leave it in the box? And not that you're an in-box collector, but that's just like, I just wanted to buy it just to buy it. I'm not actually going to open it and display it.
No. Toys want to be free.
Yeah, I agree. Well, are they free when they're just behind glass cases? Like I always say to people, I've become the bad guy from Toy Story 2.
Well, they want to be... Oh, you're right. You're kind of putting them...
Yeah, mine is in a Detolf and another glass case. I don't know. But like you, maybe I will get rid of these books and replace them with...
books are overrated.
They'll never make a Kindle for action figures, right?
Right.
Well, Greg, this has been a fun conversation. I would love to have you back on so we can talk some more in the future. But until then, how can folks find you on the internet?
Mainly through Instagram. So my handle is Deeez Action Figures. Deeez Action Figures. So it's kind of like the bit in the Chronic, that little skit. And Deeez Nuts was already taken. Right, so it's Deeez Action Figures. I try to post at least once a day. The more likes I get, the more posts I'll make.
There you go.
Somehow I'm on the wrong side of the algorithm.
Well, we're trying to get some more viewers and listeners for Shelf Conscious, so maybe we can help each other out. More people who like and follow Deeez Action Figures on IG, like and follow the podcast, and find us on YouTube as well. Greg, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been so fun, and I can't wait to have you back on and talk some more about Marvel Legends and Black Series and everything else.
Sounds good.